This is David Merker, and you're listening to Mike Delivers with Mike Biseglia. I first met Mike 21 years ago when we were traveling around the U.S. together, and I quickly learned that he is undoubtedly the best and most knowledgeable Mets and Nets fan to ever come out of Bergen County, New Jersey.
Welcome inside Mike Delivers from his wife's 2017 Toyota RAV4. Here's your host, Mike Biseglia.
That's right. This is Mike Delivers, episode number 95. And I'm your host, Mike Biseglia. And I'm coming to you from my wife's 2017 Toyota RAV4. I'm currently located outside of the Wendy's in Bloomfield, New Jersey. That's right, Wendy's is now on Uber Eats. I've done 1,188 deliveries, and I have never and will never steal food from anybody. You can find this podcast where all major podcasts are found, including iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Spotify, and of course, Apple Podcasts. And if you have not already, head on over to Apple. If you're an Apple listener, subscribe and click the 5 stars. Give me a 5-star rating. Leave a comment. It's greatly appreciated here on the Mike Delivers podcast. Interview coming up on this pod, on this episode, with Frank Isola. He's a longtime NBA writer and insider. You've seen him on TV, I'm sure, on ESPN's Around the Horn and Pardon the Interruption. Also, he has his own radio show on Sirius XM NBA Radio. But most importantly, besides all those incredible accolades, he lives in Montclair, New Jersey, which is the town over from mine, which means we have a lot to talk about in regards to food and the food scene in New Jersey. Also, as somebody that's been on the road a lot covering the NBA, curious to get his thoughts on NBA arena food. We'll talk about that in a couple of moments. I want to give a big shout out to the O'Brien Creative Group. They made my incredible looking logo. If you want more information on them, if you want someone to design your logo or need information on brand identity, head on over to the o'briencreativegroup.com, or you can see more information on them in my show notes. That's where you got the information for this podcast. So right below that little play feature, you can see information on them. Also, if you're not already and you'd like to become a Mike Delivers Patreon fan, go to patreon.com, type in Mike Delivers, or download the Patreon app on your phone, and then type in Mike Delivers, and you get bonus content on this podcast. That includes a blind food taste test, video coverage of the pod, a bonus episode. So you really get a lot of other features. It's $4 a month. You can find out the story of how I crashed my wife's 2007 Toyota RAV4, and all the proceeds go to me. So thank you. And that, that helps the Mike Delivers brand, helps the Mike Delivers podcast. In all seriousness, thank you. If you can, go over to the Patreon page. My wife and I have been doing a lot of bonus podcasts together because we've been stuck in the house during this quarantine. So there is about 20 to 25 bonus podcasts on there for you guys to listen to. Just head on over to patreon.com. All right, a tip sucked this week. That's all I want to say about that from Stories from the Road. Basically, all I have to say is, why aren't you tipping people? I'll have more detailed stories on episode 97 of what the hell happened and why they pissed me off, but we'll save that for next week's episode of the Mike Delivers podcast. So here's my conversation now with Frank Isola. You've seen him on ESPN's Around the Horn, Pardon the Interruption, Sirius XM NBA Radio, longtime NBA writer, and most importantly, a Montclair resident that likes to talk about food in my area, which tickles my heart. Here's my conversation with Frank Isola. All right, it's the Mike Delivers podcast. I'm excited to have on the line now Frank Isola. You can see him on ESPN's Around the Horn and PTI. Of course, you can listen to him as well on Sirius XM NBA's radio, the starting lineup Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'm excited to have Frank on the line right now because I'm a huge NBA junkie. I'm actually a Nets fan, so I love doing NBA stuff. But more importantly, you live in the same area that I do, and I've done more than 1,200 food deliveries. So I think I know everything there is to know about the New Jersey food scene, Frank. So I'm excited to pick your brain on New Jersey food and Montclair food as well.
Yeah, when I first got married, we lived in Brooklyn in Park Slope. So, we're traveling, when it was just my wife and I, we're walking to places to eat. We still can do that in Montclair. And you know how it is in Montclair. A lot of self-important people live in this town, but there are some really good restaurants. So we have a couple that we like. We like De Novo, which is located obviously right behind the train station, or it's actually part of the train station.
Yes.
Which is a pretty cool place. We got to know the owner pretty well. I'll tell you a funny story.
Nice.
So we would go in there a lot and eat. And when Charles Oakley got kicked out of the Garden that day, that was on a Wednesday. So on Friday, the Knicks were playing the Denver Nuggets. And I was outside the station house after he had gotten arrested. And, the days after that, I was doing a lot of stories. I was talking to him all the time. So Friday afternoon, this was back, in February of 2017, I believe it was. So I texted him, or I called him up. I said, where are you right now? He said, I'm in New York. I said, you watching the game? Yes. Where are you watching the game? He told me. So I said, I said, I'm going to be over at a good place in New Jersey. I said, you should come over and watch the game. He said, all right, maybe I'll do that. So I tell him De Novo. So I'm with my wife and my daughter. My son was away at school. So it's halftime of the game. And I told a couple of people he might show up. So there were some people in there that were excited. All of a sudden, the door swings open. And there's just like this, the one thing about, professional athletes, especially basketball players, you don't really realize how big they are.
Right.
Until they're just like in a natural setting like that. So here comes like this massive man. He walks in, the whole place just stopped, because remember back then it was like a big story. So he sat down, talked to the owner, Dimitri, sat at the bar. That's always been a favorite place of ours. It's really good. De Novo we like. And we also like, I wonder if you've been here, you know where the Corner is? On Grove Street. It's a breakfast and lunch place. Yeah. Jeff owns that place. We get to know the owners. That's how often we're in there. But he also owns Giotto, which is on Church Street.
That is my wife and I favorite restaurant in Montclair. My in-laws are coming later today, and we've already had strict orders that Saturday night we are getting takeout from there. That is the rules. Great place.
See, now, when they allowed outdoor seating, which was a couple of weeks ago, a buddy of mine, Mike in Montclair, the famous guy that calls up Francesa, he made a reservation with Jeff, and we sat outside Giotto, like the first night there. That little area is great because the outdoor seating is really good. I'm not going to mention the restaurants I don't like there, but I do like Giotto. And I'll tell you what, under new management, he changed the inside around. And when you sit inside in the winter like we did, it has kind of like a little bit of like a European feel, because the window is really cool. And the food is, as you know, the food there is really, really good. Plus, De Novo, they have a bar, they have a liquor license. So you're buying alcohol there. Giotto, bring your own. I'm a big bring your own guy. I like that.
Yeah, you can save a lot of money that way. There's actually there's like a liquor store or a wine store next door that you can go in, bring it out. Now, this is pre-pandemic, but my wife and I would love to sit on the outside on Church Street, go to that wine store, bring a bottle of wine, sit outside, then bring it over. Obviously, it's changed a little bit. But.
Do you agree with me, too? Like, why have cars drive through there? Why not just it's a weird, for people who don't know, there's like this little stretch of a street which is off Bloomfield Avenue, and then it connects with, I guess that's Park. But it's such a small space. There's tons of pedestrian traffic. Why? If you don't allow cars here, it's not cutting off any kind of artery or anything like that. That street should be completely closed off. You can then add more tables to it.
I couldn't agree with you more, especially now, too. And I think the other day they were doing something like that to try to support businesses. And I can't tell you how much of a pain in the ass that street is for Uber Eats delivery drivers, because you'll come in through and I'll double park and put on my flashers. I did a pickup at Raymond's, which is the
a lot of people
like a diner, like an upscale kind of diner,
very
place.
Expensive diner.
Yes, very right. You want $16 bacon? That's where you go. It's very good, but that's where you get it. I can't tell you how many times I've double parked there and had cops just come at me like, you can't do this. I'm like, I'm trying to pick up food for somebody. Yeah. But you're right. You block off that street. You could make it like this like European fun outdoor dining seating area, which I agree would be completely awesome.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're delivering, because I'm one of these people, I'd be the perfect customer for you, because I don't like to complain if like the order's messed up. I might call and say something so the next time.
Right.
But when your food comes, it's like I've waited a while to begin with. I'm not going to go through the whole process again.
Sure.
So do you get a lot of people when you would deliver the food, do they look at it right away? No, the order's wrong. And now are you obligated to do something about that? Or do you tell them, whoa, I'm the middleman. You got to call up the restaurant.
Yeah, I'm the middleman. That's a very good question, and I've seen it from all fronts. And this is actually a true story, which I found was fascinating. And it's a restaurant in Bloomfield. I'm spacing on the name now. Cafe something starts with an M. But I went in there, and he told me that there was a food item that wasn't available for the customer. And I said, "Oh, can I let the customer know? Like, hey." He doesn't have, it was a yucca fries. I was like, I want to let the customer know, like, hey, they don't have the yucca fries. He goes, don't worry about it. Already told the customer don't worry about it. It's all good. Take the food, go to the customer's house. I'll go, oh, just like, no yucca fries. Sorry about that. But I know the manager let you know. He goes, nobody told me that.
Yeah.
Not at all. So I got him lying to me. I'm then going over to take the food. But to your point, I'm the middleman. But what's happened now during this pandemic is there's a lot of contactless delivery. So you'll take the food, leave it at somebody's front door. Then you take a photo of it with your app, and that photo then goes to the person, and they go, okay, here's my lo mein. It's at my front door.
Yeah.
I can now go. It's safe to go pick it up. But it's crazy just the amount of like requests people have, the little notes that people leave, and the anger that is directed my way. When I'm just the guy picking up the food going, hey, I'm just trying to earn a couple extra bucks. Here it is. Please tip me all right.
Who's the most famous person you drop food off at?
Stephen
Colbert.
I have not done that. The most famous one, it was a New York Giant, not like a super celebrity Giant, but his name was John Jenkins, big defensive tackle, was actually like cut a few weeks later, signed with the Dolphins. And he got he ordered 5 cookies to his hotel room. And when I came over, I was like, this is the strangest thing. I didn't know, but it just says John J. So I don't know, I'm delivering to like a sports figure. But then when I got to the room, it's like this 6'7" massive human being, and there's giant stuff all over the place. Gave him the cookies. It was the wrong order. He comes running down to get me, grabs me. He's like, you got me the wrong cookies. Was totally pissed off. Went to Giants camp, gave him the right amount of cookies the next day. It turns out it was for his kids, and that's why he was so upset.
What hotel was he in? Was he in?
It was like the Sheraton outside of the metal. Maybe it wasn't the Sheraton. It's like right outside the Giant Stadium, like 10 minutes
Have
from
you
there.
now?
Yeah.
I'll give you a Giant story. Another restaurant that we go to a lot is in Clifton.
Okay.
Is Matthews. Have you been to Matthews Italian restaurant?
I've driven by it 800 times.
It's great. The owner of the place,
down.
Matthew, is a young guy, really good guy. And the staff there is phenomenal. Obviously, he treats his employees well because they all still work there. But during training camp last year for the Giants, we walked in. I was with my wife, my son. It was just the three of us. Oh, and my guy Mike from Montclair and his wife. And who walked in? Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, Kyle Lauletta, and I forget who the fourth quarterback was, but Eli Manning was taking all of the Giant quarterbacks out for dinner. And at the time, it looked like, we were kind of joking around. It's kind of like the Last Supper because it looked like, Daniel Jones was eventually going to get the start. And sure enough, that's what happened. And I tell you what, even Eli Manning, that's a big dude when he walks into a room. Yes, that was
exactly.
that was pretty cool being in there. That's a good restaurant because a lot of the MLB Network people, because MLB Network is in Secaucus,
right?
Like Harold Reynolds lives in Montclair, Brian Kenny. A lot of the people will go eat at Matthews in Clifton.
Interesting. Okay, that's good to know because I've been by that place a bajillion times driving. That's the spot right by the entrance to Route 3, right?
Exactly.
You're trying to get back on the highway.
If you go in there, you mention Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
So like say hello to Matthew, mention my name, and then make sure you tell him we talked about his restaurant on the podcast.
Yeah, no, I'll
Please
make sure. And I absolutely will do. No, I love picking your brain on food. All right, so outside of the Montclair area, is there another restaurant or a spot that you like to travel to or go to?
All right. So in where Fairleigh Dickinson is located, which is in Hackensack, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So really from my house to this place is only 9 miles. And both my kids are college age. But there's a place called Brooklyn Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's right across the street from FDU. If you go there, it is the best brick oven pizza you're ever going to get. The Caesar salad is off the charts, and it's going to blow you away how cheap everything is.
Yeah, right.
It's very inexpensive, and it's cash only. So remember, you got to bring cash. You can't get away with a credit card.
Right.
But we went there. It was probably 2 weeks ago, because my son, believe you talk about food, my son had been in Italy for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So he was living it up. And so one day when he was home, we decided to get that. So I actually drove myself and my daughter. We drove out, picked it up, and brought it back. But Brooklyn Pizza in Hackensack, right across the street from FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University, outstanding.
And a big question that I always like to get opinions on from my guests here on the Mike Delivers podcast is when food is delivered to your house, and pizza is a prime example of what works for this. When, for example, an Uber Eats delivery is sent to your house, will you reheat the food, or will you just go at it and eat it? Hey, I'm hungry. I've been waiting. Or it's like, you know what? It's not the same as the restaurant. This pasta's kind of cold. What's your protocol there?
Yeah, I'm big. We're big at reheating. I like hot food, And there's some things too, and you would know this. There's some foods in some restaurants, and you feel badly at this time, that just don't travel well.
Right.
I always feel like fish, seafood, I just don't feel like it travels well.
Yeah.
Pasta doesn't always travel well. And pizza, if you talk to pizza guys, they've always said, when you order a pie in a restaurant and you eat it there, it tastes different than it's going to taste at home. Obviously, it goes in the box, all the steam. So even the guys at the pizza place will tell you, put it in the oven for a minute or so and heat it up. But yeah, certain food, and you would know this better than anybody, it just doesn't travel well.
No, and it really, my number one, I will say, and my advice would be that does not travel well is French fries. They are
good one.
Disgusting. When you get French fries to your house, from doing this, I don't even order French fries anymore.
I wouldn't. I would know that too.
It.
I would never order it. There's certain. Yep. I know. I knew that ahead of time. I'm not ordering that because I'll usually get a sweet potato fries. But when you get them delivered in whatever kind of meal, just not good.
Good sweet potato fry recommendation is the stuffed grass-fed burger. Say that 10 times fast, which is in Montclair. It's sort of tucked away behind the Whole Foods. That's in Montclair. They do the burgers where they have the cheese stuffed in between. Highly recommend that for their sweet potato fries. Very good.
Now, what about? I don't think you've probably delivered anything because I don't think they have takeout. Bivio, it's a pizza place on. I think it's on Pine.
Bivio is one of the elite pizza spots. Yeah, that is. I'm glad you brought that up. That place is awesome. I tried during the pandemic, tried to get a pizza order from there, and they opened the phone line at 4:00. Right, so at 3:59, right. I'm dialing. Finally, get through at 5:07. Hey, I'm sorry, we just sold our last pizza.
Yeah, because they have a certain amount of dough, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Have you ever been inside and eaten there?
Yes, we have. Phenomenal pizzas. Yeah. Phenomenal.
A little bit of arrogance of the two guys that run it. I mean, they're nice guys, but they're definitely like
yes,
like they're putting on an art show for you.
Right. Yes.
And let me tell you something. It's good. The white on white pizza.
They've got the lemon pizza there. I think it's one of the specials. That's excellent as well. And that's another BYOB place.
I was just about to say that. And there's a liquor store right down the street.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, Montclair. So what happens is that night could not get into Bivio, then made the call to Appi's, which is like 3 blocks away. Solid pizza. That was our backup for the night. Their cheesy bread is very good. It's like $8. It's like this big. You get a cheesy bread. I highly recommend that.
What about the place? I'm going to forget. It's right around the block from Church Street, which I think would be Fullerton. It's like tacos and stuff. What is the name of that place?
And they're going to be so mad at me for doing this because the owner of that, it's not
Dose. It's something, is it? Oh my!
No, God. Yeah. There's a great taco place right around the corner over there, and the owner of it, Adam, is a huge Jets Yankees fan, and he actually opened up a new restaurant in Upper Montclair called Sparrows, which is like an Italian deli, which I highly recommend, which is very good too over there. But yeah, that taco place is phenomenal. The guacamole with the different things in there is great.
Oh, but my wife and kids, they all like Casa Pekin, which is on Bloomfield Avenue. You have to walk down. It's a Mexican restaurant where you walk downstairs.
Oh,
it's
yes.
It's almost right on the corner.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, now you're driving me nuts. I forgot the name of this restaurant. I'll
look it up on my phone. I know too, because I've emailed with the owner too. So if he listens to this, I'm looking like a real schmuck. It's fun. Like you mentioned that Mexican restaurant. The first thing that jumps in my head is the parking for there is miserable for Uber Eats orders because you're running up and down the street and you can't get in. You know, you're double parked trying to get in there, and then you go down the steps. Like, it's another 10 minutes, and you're like having.
But in the loading zone, there's a lot of loading zones. I think after 7 o'clock, you're allowed to park there. There's no signs that say you can do it. That's where my guy Mike. I don't park there because I feel like, who the heck am I? But my buddy Mike, whenever we go out, he always parks in the loading zone and he never gets a ticket. I think after a certain time, that's a good thing to know for a food delivery people.
Yeah, these are good tips to have, and
I'm giving you. You're supposed to be giving me the tips. I'm giving you the tips.
Yeah, you're giving it all to me. I know. I need to get the veteran leadership in the Montclair area. This stuff helps me. Speaking of tips, cheesy transition. What is your protocol for tipping the delivery driver when the food comes to you?
I'm always I'm willing to give anything. I never know how much I'm supposed to give. I always ask them, what am I like? My wife handles all that stuff.
Yeah,
she's going to be very generous.
Well, that's great to hear. Hopefully, there'll be an Uber Eats order your way.
I'm very generous when it comes to stuff like that. You know.
Well, what's interesting about the whole tipping thing, and this is what drives me crazy, is people will tip based on, like, let's say you got $100 order of food. They'll be like, all right, 10%, I'll give you $10. But let's say you then order just a lunch special from somewhere and it was $12. All right, here's a buck 20. The truth of the matter is the tip should be based on the experience. Like, how was I as a delivery driver? Did I get the food to you in time? Did I communicate to you?
You're right.
Hey, I'm on my way. And it's always based on the food order size. So as like a driver, you kind of learn which places and which spots are good to go to because you know there's going to be a larger amount of food, which could equal a larger tip. Which from a
and the tip is all electronic, correct?
Yeah, it's all electronic. Well, sometimes people will like, hey, here's a couple of bucks, which is weird.
Even better.
Which is weird now, though, too, in like the pandemic, because people are like handing you cash. So I had one woman give me a $5 bill, and she put it in like a Ziploc bag.
Wow! And
she's like, "Here's a $5." I was like, you know what? That's super.
That's pretty cool.
I appreciate that.
Business since March must have been insane, right?
There was a time it just went bonkers. I mean, no joke. You could go on the road for 8 to 10 hours and make $400. I mean, it was just. Wow. It was just nuts. Like I did the math. Like if you were to do Uber Eats full time, I mean, you could make 6 figures during this period because the money was just outrageous. And then the other part was I don't want to call it like the guilt factor, but people were tipping 5 to 10 times more because especially early on, you're going out, you're putting your neck on the line, you're going to these different places. Hey, I'm going to be a little nicer. I'm going to give a little bit better of a tip. Yeah.
Interesting. I could see that. We were doing a lot of guilt tipping, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. Frank, so I know covering the NBA for all the years you have. Is there an NBA arena you found to have the best pregame meal? I know you go in there, and for the media members, sometimes I don't know what it might be. It's like dry chicken or whatever. But is there an arena that had like the best pregame meal where you got a little juiced up for it?
Yeah, there are some places where it's pretty bad. And listen, you're paying. I've always felt this way. We're paying for the meal. They don't give you – very few arenas would give you a free meal. So you're going to pay for it. I have no problem paying for it. Just give us something good. Milwaukee's a very good eating city, and they've always done a really nice job. And L.A. is always first class. L.A., Dallas with Mark Cuban. You know it's good because you'd walk into the dining room and you would think it was a soup kitchen. The place is mobbed with people. I'm like, people coming from out of the woodwork to eat in here. And there were certain places that were like that. Dallas, L.A., both obviously the Clippers and the Lakers, and Milwaukee was always very, very good.
Any types of meals you can remember there, or it was just good, or any specific
Milwaukee,
memories?
You're in the Midwest in Milwaukee. It's like meat and potatoes and cheese. They just always had, they had very good meat there. Excellent. It wasn't, and then if in Texas, a lot of times you get really good Tex-Mex. But the one thing about you live in where we live, you can get great Italian food,
right?
Pizza. You're going to get great bagels. The Tex-Mex, barbecue, Mexican food, not always going to be. You can find places that are good, but you go to a place like Texas, and
right? It's different.
That kind
world.
of food is outstanding.
Yeah, and to answer our question from before, I think the place you're thinking of is Villa Lobos.
Villa Lobos.
Yes.
100%. That's the place.
Yeah, just looked it up.
And you're right about the owner. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, no, good guy. Big sports fan as well. But I wanted to make sure I got that in there.
Don't leave it out.
BYB.
That's right. That's right. And that the Montclair area there's not really many, for people listening that, don't know this area in Jersey. There's not really, because I guess it's just so expensive to have a liquor license in there. So a lot of the places are bring your own.
And that's why I think De Novo, because that building is owned by New Jersey Transit.
Yeah. Okay. That would make sense.
That's why there's always, it's like anything. There's always like a reason why somebody has a liquor license and another place doesn't have them. But that's a big part of it. And that's really for these restaurants, like a place like De Novo, which people like going there.
Yeah.
Sitting down. I've seen the governor of New Jersey in there a couple of years ago. So Jason Pierre-Paul used to play for the Giants. Jason Pierre-Paul walked in there one night. This is when he was living. In fact, he bought a buddy of mine's house on, I'm going to forget the name of the street. But he walked in there one night with two teammates. These guys, they were massive. They sat down. They were just ordering plates of food. It was amazing how much they could eat. It was like they had like 3 plates of tuna, 3 plates of steak. It was amazing.
Yeah,
to watch what they could eat. Bourne Esiason's been in there after he played a hockey game. I told him to go.
Yeah,
but De Novo's had a good. I told Dimitri, I said, make it real cheesy. Put up pictures of these guys, but he doesn't want to do that.
And they've done a good job too with everything happening, because they've got a great parking lot, and I've noticed they've done outside seating there because they can take advantage of that. So for people listening, want to go for a dining experience, they have a great outdoor seating section.
And it's also pretty cool too when the train kind of rolls by. Mm-hmm. There is like you talk about like that has a bit of a European feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely does. How about like just finished up a late night NBA game working, if it was in the city or whatever, you're coming back and it's like 11, 12 o'clock. Is there a Montclair place like, it's midnight, I just need something to eat, let me swing by and get something?
I don't think there are any places anymore in Montclair like that.
Yeah, you might be right.
Upstairs, which is
above
the Japanese restaurant, right on Bellevue. But the problem is, like, the restaurants on Bellevue, that's like a ghost town. Once you get to about 9 o'clock at night, you can see tumbleweed coming down the street. So that's why I don't venture that much over to Bloomfield Avenue. So at that time of night, I'm not ordering food. Those days are over. I might stop. Years ago, I might have stopped at that pizza place on Route 3 on the way home, but I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah,
well, Frank, you've been excellent with your time. Really enjoyed talking food, talking the New Jersey food scene. I appreciate it, man. I asked a couple of questions to all my guests that come on to the podcast, so to kind of end things off. So the first one I want to know is, best thing you ate in the last 7 days from right now when we're recording?
Best thing I ate in the last 7 days, it's going to be orecchietta with broccoli rabe and crumbled sausage. And I got that from De Novo. We hadn't eaten there in a few weeks, and my son wanted to order from there.
Broccoli rabe is a very hot topic on this podcast in particular. People either love it or hate it. I love it. I think it's one of the best things on earth.
I have it in an omelet.
Ooh, okay.
I'll have it on a sandwich. What's the name? Nicolo's. If you go down there and get a sandwich, I always get the one with the grilled chicken. You get the broccoli rabe and then some kind of cheese on top. It's real broccoli. How can you not like broccoli rabe?
I know. People are like, it's too bitter for me. I'm like, oh, come on. Better taste buds.
Yeah, absolutely. And eat it with an omelet.
Okay.
Broccoli rabe and sausage or something like that. Really, really good. But that would be the meal.
Very cool. And then also, and this is a big topic for my wife, she's very passionate about this one, like really passionate. And I'll give you her answer after. Do you prefer cake or pie?
Oh, man. There's one kind of cake that I like, so I'd probably go with pie, even though there's one cake that I like, which my wife makes me on my birthday every year.
And what's the cake?
White on white. Vanilla with vanilla icing. I just love it. Nobody else in my family, they don't like it. I love it. I just love the way it tastes.
Okay, yeah. My wife's a big cake person over pie. I won't say out loud what she says about it because it's violently inappropriate. You'll have to go back and listen to previous episodes. And then finally, last question I ask all my guests to come on the Mike Delivers podcast, and I just asked your honest answer. If in a year from now, for whatever reason, you're getting married and you're sending out your wedding invitations, am I invited to your wedding?
You're going to make the list. I'm having a small wedding. You're not getting invited. Don't feel so bad. That's going to be a much bigger list than the list of people getting invited.
Frank, I appreciate your time.
Was I the only honest person?
No, I've had a combination. I've had people that have said, "Yeah, you can come, you can do this," and then I've had
Well, you
people
could
going,
crash. I don't mind that.
"Oh, that's cool." I've had people that have come on and said, "I've only known you for 20 minutes. How the hell are you coming to my wedding?" I go, "I just want you to be honest."
You know the key to a wedding, because where we live, it's basically a fundraiser. So what you're doing is you're also inviting a lot of people with the hope that they don't show up. Right. Then what they do is, but they'll send a gift. That is the win-win.
Yes,
really, for the people that are throwing a wedding. And don't forget, tip your Uber Eats drivers. Big cash. I'll talk to my wife. She's doing all the tipping, not me.
All right. Well, if you're doing an Uber Eats delivery, I'll keep an eye out for it if it's coming on. Frank, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Frank, for jumping on the Mike Delivers podcast. Really enjoyed that. My fingers are crossed one of these times. I'll pick up an order, deliver it to your house, and then maybe I'll get a nice tip from Frank Isola. That would be greatly appreciated. And also thank you again for coming on over to this podcast. Had a lot of fun chatting about the New Jersey food scene, the Montclair food scene, and some of the restaurants that we both have in common that we love. That was a blast. Hey, episode number 96 will drop on Thursday. It is the final Seafood Month item. That's right, Seafood Month comes to an end, and my wife and I try some sushi from P.F. Chang's. That will be the final item of the Seafood Month in July. August has a theme. I'll tell you guys about that a little bit later. If you want to know what it is, actually on the Patreon episode, I tell everybody what we'll be trying in August. So if you're curious, head on over to patreon.com, type in Mike Delivers, information there on what my wife and I will be trying for the month of August. Crazy too, just like July, Seafood Month, over. June, Taco Bell Month, over. May, Sandwich Month, over. Shit is just flying by. I mean, it really is. And my wife and I are expecting our newborn son coming on September the 3rd. So that's only about 5 weeks away too. So a lot going on here, not just with the podcast, but with life, which is just cool to say out loud. A lot of thanks involved on this episode. Thank you to Frank Isola for coming on and talking a little bit about the New Jersey food scene. Of course, the music you hear, that's from Beautiful Noise. They are the soundtrack to this podcast, and it would not be the same without them. Thank you. And thank you to you guys for listening and downloading. As the numbers keep rising, the Mike Delivers podcast, I'm having so much fun doing this. Thank you guys. It's greatly appreciated. This has been episode number 95. We'll see you next time for some sushi from P.F. Chang's for episode number 96.